Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. Ian has received several awards recognizing his exceptional community commitment locally, as well as awards for outstanding performance and achievement from both RE/MAX International and the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.
Peter and his dog Gracie ran through fields so wide, with dreams in their pockets and stars as their guide. Every day's an adventure under the open sky. In their world of stories, time just flies by.
Peter and Gracie's magical Christmas tree. The morning sun peeked through Peter's bedroom window, casting a warm glow on the fresh snow outside. Peter was already wide awake, sitting cross-legged on his bed with his best friend in the whole world, Gracie, his fluffy white American Eskimo dog. Together they watched as tiny snowflakes danced in the early morning light, adding to the blanket of white that covered their yard in Coombs. "Just look at all that snow, Gracie," Peter whispered excitedly, running his fingers through her thick, cloud-like fur. "It's perfect for Christmas." Gracie responded with a gentle woof and pressed her cold nose against Peter's cheek, making him giggle. Her black eyes sparkled with joy, and her feathery tail swished back and forth across Peter's blue quilted bedspread. Today wasn't just any winter day. It was December 24th, Christmas Eve, and Peter had been looking forward to this particular day for weeks. Not only would Santa come tonight, but today was also the day they would finally pick out their Christmas tree. Every year the family waited until Christmas Eve to get their tree, a tradition that had started with Peter's grandfather many years ago. You see, Peter's dad had explained, "Your grandfather believed that getting the tree on Christmas Eve made it extra special. He said the tree would be filled with more Christmas magic because it was closer to when Santa would arrive." Peter believed this with all his heart, and he was sure Gracie did too. After all, she was the most magical dog he had ever known. She seemed to understand everything he said, and she always knew exactly how to make him feel better when he was sad. She had been his constant companion since she was a tiny puppy, and now at 3 years old, she was as much a part of the family as anyone. The delicious smell of pancakes wafted up from the kitchen, and Peter's stomach growled. "Breakfast time, Gracie," he announced, hopping out of bed. Gracie jumped down too, her paws making soft thumping sounds on the hardwood floor. Peter quickly changed out of his Spider-Man pajamas and into his favorite winter outfit. Warm fleece-lined jeans, a red and green striped sweater his grandmother had knitted for him, and thick wool socks with little Christmas trees on them. Downstairs, the kitchen was warm and cozy. Peter's mom stood at the stove flipping pancakes that were perfectly golden brown. His dad sat at the table reading the morning newspaper and sipping from his favorite Christmas mug, the one Peter had made for him in art class last year, with painted handprints turned into reindeer. "There's our tree hunting team," Mom said cheerfully, placing a stack of pancakes shaped like Christmas trees on the table. She had used food coloring to make them green, and there were little candies decorated on them like ornaments. "You'll need a good breakfast before we head to Mr. Thompson's lot." While Peter dug into his festive breakfast, Gracie settled into her special spot next to his chair, munching on her own breakfast. Her food bowl was painted with little paw prints that Peter had carefully added himself, and next to it sat her water bowl with "World's Best Dog" written in swirling letters. "Mr. Thompson called earlier," Dad mentioned, folding the newspaper. "He says he saved some special trees just for us to look at, and he mentioned having a surprise for Gracie." Peter's eyes lit up. Mr. Thompson always had the best surprises. Last year he had given Gracie a special red and green collar with jingle bells on it, which she still wore every Christmas season. The gentle tinkling sound followed her everywhere she went, making her sound like one of Santa's reindeer. After breakfast, it was time to get ready for their tree hunting adventure. Mom helped Peter bundle up in his warm winter gear, his blue snow pants, his thick winter coat with the fuzzy hood, waterproof boots, and the special mittens that had little grips on the palms for better tree inspection, as Peter liked to say. Gracie didn't need much preparation for the cold. Her thick white fur was made for winter weather. Still, Peter carefully tied her special Christmas bandana around her neck, adjusting it so it sat perfectly above her jingle bell collar. The bandana was red with white snowflakes, and Peter thought it made her look extra festive. The drive to Mr. Thompson's Christmas tree lot wasn't very long, but Peter spent the entire time telling Gracie about what kind of tree they should look for. It needs to be tall enough to touch the ceiling in the living room, he explained, but not so tall that the angel on top gets squished, and it needs to have strong branches for all our special ornaments. Remember last year's tree? It was perfect. I'll bet we can find an even better one this year. Gracie listened attentively, her ears perking up at all the right moments. She sat regally in the back seat next to Peter, occasionally pressing her nose against the window to watch the familiar streets of Qualicum Beach pass by. The small town looked like a scene from a snow globe, with every shop and house decorated for Christmas, and fresh snow making everything look clean and magical. When they pulled into Mr. Thompson's lot, Peter could hardly contain his excitement. The entrance was marked by a beautiful arch covered in twinkling lights and fresh garland. A hand-painted sign read, "Thompson's Christmas Trees," where holiday magic begins, in cheerful red and green letters. Mr. Thompson himself stood near the entrance wearing his signature red plaid jacket and a warm wool hat with ear flaps. His white beard made him look a little bit like Santa Claus, and his cheeks were rosy from the cold. When he spotted the red pickup truck, his face broke into a wide smile. "Ho, ho, ho, ho," he called out as they parked. "If it isn't my favorite tree hunting family. And there's the lovely Miss Gracie." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a special Christmas cookie shaped like a bone, decorated with white and red icing. "This is from Mrs. Thompson. She baked it specially for her favorite four-legged customer." Gracie took the treat with perfect manners, wagging her tail in delight. Peter beamed with pride. He had spent many hours teaching Gracie to be gentle when taking treats, and she never forgot her training. "Now then," Mr. Thompson said, clapping his mittened hands together, "shall we begin our search? I've got some beautiful trees this year. The fresh snow makes them look even more magical, don't you think?" Peter nodded enthusiastically. The tree lot was laid out like a maze of evergreens, with neat rows creating paths between the trees. Twinkling lights were strung overhead on poles, and the air was filled with the fresh scent of pine and fir. Christmas music played softly from speakers hidden among the trees, making everything feel even more festive. "Before you start looking," Mr. Thompson said with a twinkle in his eye, "I've got something special for both you and Gracie." He disappeared into his little warming hut and came back with two things: a steaming cup of hot chocolate topped with whipped cream and mini marshmallows for Peter, and a brand new red harness for Gracie with the words, "Official Tree Inspector," embroidered on it in green thread. "I thought Gracie might look official while she helps pick out the perfect tree," Mr. Thompson explained, as he helped Peter put the harness on Gracie. It fit perfectly, and Gracie stood a little taller, as if she knew she had an important job to do. Peter carefully sipped his hot chocolate while his parents chatted with Mr. Thompson about the different types of trees available this year. There were Douglas firs, Fraser firs, and even some rare noble firs that Mr. Thompson had said came all the way from a special farm in the mountains. "Remember," Mom reminded Peter, "we need to measure each tree we like. We don't want another incident like 2 years ago." Peter remembered it well. They had found what they thought was the perfect tree, only to discover it was too tall for their living room. They had to cut off the top, which meant they couldn't put the angel up that year. Armed with a measuring tape and holding Gracie's leash, Peter began the serious business of tree hunting. He had a specific method. First, he and Gracie would walk down each row slowly, giving every tree careful consideration. If they found one they liked, Peter would stand back while Gracie walked around it, her fluffy tail acting like a natural duster. clearing away any loose snow so they could see the tree properly. "What do you think about this one, Gracie?" Peter asked, stopping in front of a tall Fraser Fir. Gracie sniffed the lower branches and sat down, their special signal that meant she approved of a tree for further inspection. Peter's dad came over with the measuring tape while Mom examined the branches. "It's a little too wide for our corner," Mom said gently, "but good eye, you two. The shape is beautiful." They continued their search, moving methodically through the lot. Peter shared his hot chocolate with his parents, and Mr. Thompson kept appearing with coffee for them and more treats for Gracie. Other families came and went, many stopping to admire Gracie in her official harness. Several children asked if they could pet her, and Gracie was always gentle and friendly, making Peter proud. They had been searching for almost an hour when something magical happened. As they turned down one of the last rows they hadn't explored, Gracie stopped suddenly. Her ears perked up, and she looked intently at a tree that was slightly set apart from the others. Without any prompting, she walked around it in a perfect circle, her tail wagging excitedly. Peter stepped back to get a better look. The tree wasn't the tallest in the lot, but it was perfectly shaped, like a triangle drawn by a careful hand. Its branches were evenly spaced and strong-looking, ideal for holding ornaments. And near the top there was a slight curve in the trunk that made the tree look like it was leaning in to tell a secret. But what really caught Peter's eye was a small branch near the bottom that curved up like a smile. "Mom, Dad," Peter called out excitedly, "I think Gracie found our tree." His parents hurried over, and Dad began his usual thorough inspection. He checked the height, perfect, the width, just right, and the freshness of the needles, excellent. Mom walked around it slowly, nodding with increasing enthusiasm. "This might be the one," she said, smiling. "What made you choose this tree, Peter?" Peter pointed out all the special features he'd noticed, especially the smiling branch. "Plus," he said, "Gracie picked it, and she's wearing her official inspection harness, so it must be perfect." Mr. Thompson came over to join them, his eyes twinkling. This is one of my favorites," he said. "It's a Fraser Fir, grown on a special farm where they say the soil is magic. They only harvest their trees on nights and full moons, and this one," he leaned in close to whisper, "this one was harvested on the last full moon before Christmas." Peter's eyes widened. No wonder Gracie had been drawn to the tree. It was extra magical. He watched in excitement as Mr. Thomas and his dad prepared to cut down their tree. Mr. Thompson pulled out his special saw, the one with the candy cane stripes on the handle, and soon the air was filled with the sound of sawing. "Timber!" Mr. Thompson called softly as the tree began to lean. Dad caught it carefully, and together they carried it to the wrapping station, where a clever machine bundled the tree in netting to make it easier to transport. While they worked, Mr. Thompson's wife came out of the warming hut with fresh hot chocolate for everyone and a special announcement. "Since you're our last tree sale of the day," she said warmly, "we have something special for you." She handed Peter a small box wrapped in green paper with a red bow. "Don't open it till Christmas morning." The drive home was filled with excitement. Peter kept turning around in his seat to make sure the tree was still securely tied, and Gracie sat at his attention, as if guarding their precious cargo. They sang Christmas carols all the way home, with Gracie's jingle bell collar providing accompaniment. Setting up the tree was a family tradition that Peter loved. First, Dad brought the old tree stand in from the garage, the same one they'd used since before Peter was born. Then came the process of getting the tree through the front door and into the living room corner. Peter and Gracie supervised while Mom and Dad worked together to make sure the tree stood perfectly straight. "Now comes the best part," Peter declared, as Mom brought down boxes of Christmas ornaments from the attic. Each box was carefully labeled and contained treasures wrapped in tissue paper. As they unpacked the ornaments, Peter told Gracie the story behind each one, even though she'd heard them all before. There was the little star his grandmother had given him when he was born, with his name and birth date on the back. The hand-painted wooden train from his first Christmas still had tiny teeth marks where baby Peter had tried to chew on it. Peter's favorite ornament was a small glass ball with a tiny white dog inside that looked just like Gracie. Mom had found it at a special Christmas shop last summer and saved it as a surprise. They hung it in the middle of the tree where everyone could see it. After dinner, it was time to prepare for Santa's arrival. Peter and Gracie had important tasks to complete. First, they needed to prepare Santa's snack. Peter carefully arranged 3 of his mom's special chocolate chip cookies on the Christmas plate, the one with reindeer painted around the edge. He poured a tall glass of cold milk and, after careful consideration, added 2 dog biscuits to the plate. One for the reindeer to share, he explained to Gracie, and one just for Rudolph, since he has the hardest job. Next came the most important part, the letter to Santa. Peter had written it days ago, but he wanted to read it one more time to make sure it was perfect. Gracie sat patiently as he unfolded the paper and read aloud. Dear Santa, thank you for all the wonderful presents last year. Gracie and I have tried to be very good this year. I help Mom with the dishes and Dad with the yard work, and I brush Gracie every day and make sure she gets lots of exercise. She's been the best dog anyone could ask for. P.S. We left you cookies and milk and special treats for your reindeer, too. Time for bed, Peter, Mom called. Santa won't come until you're asleep. Peter knew she was right, but he could hardly contain his excitement. As he got ready for bed, he kept thinking about Santa flying through the night sky in his magical sleigh, visiting all the children around the world. Would he notice the perfect tree? Would he see Gracie's special ornament? In his cozy blue pajamas with the snowflakes on them, Peter climbed into bed. Gracie jumped up beside him. She always slept on top of the covers near his feet, where she could keep watch over both Peter and the bedroom door. Mom and Dad came in to kiss him goodnight, and Dad reminded him that Santa might skip their house if he caught anyone trying to peek. I won't peek, Peter promised. Gracie will make sure I stay in bed, won't you, girl? Gracie gave a soft woof of agreement, making everyone laugh. As his parents turned out the light, leaving only his star-shaped nightlight glowing softly, Peter snuggled down under his warm blankets, and through his window he could see snowflakes still falling, dancing in the light of the street lamp. Gracie, he whispered, do you think Santa will like our tree? Just before midnight, Peter thought he heard a soft sound on the roof. Was that the sound of reindeer hooves? Gracie's ears perked up and she looked towards the window, her tail giving a slight wag. Before Peter could fully wake up, he drifted off to sleep, dreaming of magical Christmas adventures. When morning came, presents were scattered under the tree, and a few cookie crumbs remained on the plate. Santa had indeed visited during the night, leaving behind magic and wonder. Gracie gave a happy bark, and Peter laughed, hugging his fluffy white dog. Another perfect Christmas had come and gone, filled with love, magic, and the special bond between a boy and his dog. As the morning sunlight filtered through the Christmas tree lights, Peter and Gracie sat together, enjoying the warmth and joy of another beautiful Christmas morning.
Peter and Gracie, the finest of friends, with tales of wonder that never end. In the pages of books or stars up above, they find their magic in laughter and love.
Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. Ian has received several awards recognizing his exceptional community commitment locally, as well as awards for outstanding performance and achievement from both RE/MAX International and the Vancouver Island Real Estate Board. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.